Hey everyone! How's it going? You joined early, Ben. What time is it? Still collecting some of the questions. I'll have to check the anonymous questionnaire too. 7 a.m. You crazy, Ben. Thanks for getting up for me, man. I appreciate it. Photogenic Seal. Hello, hello. How's it going? Hey, Leon. Well, we're gonna start with your question anyway, Ben. So, you can go back to sleep after this. It's so bright. Whoa. Yeah, something like that. That's good. Hey, Cairo, happy Sunday. Yeah, it's looking nice and sunny today. Yeah, I had to close the window that's right, well, right left to me, because it was just blowing out all the colors. Oh, awesome. How's everyone doing today? Pretty sunny. Oh, I'm probably gonna go for a walk after this. Get some of that vitamin D. The weather needs to make up his mind though. Like yesterday it was snowing, and then today it's like full sunshine. Oh god, Leon. Working on a substance grab I dreamt about yesterday. Hey Sebrak, how are you doing? What kind of substance graph are we talking about, Leon? Training but looking at modeling. Oh, that's cool too. I only just realized that Designer 21 is out. Yeah, I haven't looked at it. I don't know. Well, the stuff that I've seen is what is it, like the procedural modeling tools that they're adding or something like that. What are all these programs doing? They're all adding procedural modeling tools. Geomasking. But I might be understanding this misunderstanding this, but like geomasking, that's something you could do before, right? Or maybe it's like a different kind of geomasking. No. Oh, just if you use UVs. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Probably gonna be a while before I get it myself, but that is interesting though. More than one UV set. Oh shit, finally. Okay. God damn it. I just bought like a version on Steam. I don't want to deal with... Oh, I don't want to deal with subscriptions anymore. Leave me alone. So it just lets you isolate parts of the mesh so you can paint certain areas easier, right? You bought it on... But then you don't have the latest version, right? If you bought it on Steam. I thought they just Oh, you do have. Oh, what? I thought they discontinued that. Oh, this makes it interesting. Okay. Even standalone version. I'll need to take a look at that then. Because that does... Oh, okay. So you're saying that you can get this version, but then they're gonna stop continuing it on Steam then. Yeah, that's what I read. Okay. I'll have to check that out then, because the second UV set definitely is gonna help me a lot. Yeah, I wish I could still have student licenses, but I'm doing commercial work with it too, so that's a no-go. Sucks. Yeah, photogenic seal, that's exactly what I did. I switched to Steam to get away from subscription. Exactly. Exactly. No, if you wanna have updates, I think they're always gonna find a way to push you towards like a subscription model anyway. It seems to be the way that everything's going these days. I don't like it. I don't like it. Just because of the additional pressure. Like, I feel like there's pressure to create when I'm on a subscription. So I'll just stay on like the outdated software for a while and deal with like the hassle that comes with like re-exporting like a second UV set manually. Probably. Oh. Didn't explain that right. No second UV set. Okay. Yeah, then I don't need to upgrade. Thanks. That solves it. Makes it easy for me. Alright, people. We're here for like 10 minutes already. It's time to dive into some of these questions. The first question is from Ben Black. So, with the scene, the medieval village that I'm currently working on, how much time do you spend on pre-production? Did this only consist in finding references, or did you draw anything like maps and compositions? You know what, let's start there. Like, how much time do you spend on pre-production? Especially when it comes to like drawing maps and all that stuff. None. At this point, I'm mostly focused on like gathering references for the things that, like the props that I'm building. At some point, there will be a phase where I'm actually consciously thinking about building the level itself, and like trying to plan out like city streets and all that stuff too. There will be a phase where that comes into play, but the way that I like to work in my personal work is very iterative. I'll do like a lot of things in like one scene, and then I'll just completely scrap that scene and like redo it in like a new scene. It may sound like a waste of time, and it definitely is. I'm not gonna deny that, but that's just the way that I like working in my personal work. I like to keep things moving. I like to keep things fresh, and then sometimes I get way better scenes by just reducing them to nothing again and just starting like a new level and building stuff from scratch. So there will be a part where I'll probably draw like a quick map, like a 2D layout almost, for like the city center, then like the blacksmith quarter, maybe like the palace or something like that. There will be a phase of that. What I will try to do is I will probably keep the layout that I have now and sort of iterate on it with maps and like trying to like lay out the roads and the connections a bit better. Because I do keep that in mind, right? So I was thinking when I was quickly blocking out the scene that I'm currently doing, like the entire city, I do think about like, okay, I have a connection here that leads to like the farmlands to the east or whatever, and then I have this other exit on the other side of the city that goes to like another village, and how do these link up, and like where do they meet to create like a connection to the market, and then have like some smaller alleyways in between to create like that visual interest too. So I do keep some of that stuff in mind, but like at this point, drawing maps and compositions, not that much. Hey, Boggle the Hoggle! How's it going, man? Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen each other. Let's have a look. So the second part of the question: do you plan heavily or do you work by the seat of your pants a lot of the time? Yeah, definitely. If we're looking at the overall thing, I spend a lot of time looking at references, right? And then planning what I want to do in my scene. But I mean, my personal work, I'm not trying to get into the industry, right? I'm just trying to have fun, trying to rediscover creativity. So I'll just jump around between stuff. And I'll, like you said, work by the seat of my pants a lot of the time. And that's what I like about it. Like sometimes there are days where I don't really want to be modeling, and then I'll just go into the level and I'll build like a new section of the city or whatever, or I'll do some level art and dress some stuff up. It keeps things fresh, keeps things interesting, instead of just focusing on like this one thing for like 2 weeks and then focusing on the next thing for like 2 or 3 weeks. But I have to say, probably not the best thing if you're trying to work for like a goal, like getting into the industry, for example. It's better to properly plan it out and like actually have a concrete plan of getting into the industry, right? Or like getting the scene done in like a timeline that you establish. Hey, Samuel, how's it going? You work in a very similar way, Ben. I think it's just more fun. It's if there's no pressure of like getting into the industry, right? And if you don't have if you're not going to like the next thing, it's just more fun to be like creative. That's also what you see in a lot of traditional artists. There's I forgot the name, but there's like this Polish traditional painter from I think like a bit ago, and what he would do is he would record no, it's not Beeple, it's like a fairly unknown Polish traditional artist, but he would record like all the paintings that he would do, and like sometimes he would paint for like 5 minutes a day and then just stop it and go out for walks and do something different. Sometimes he would be working on like 4 or 5 scenes, like 4 or 5 paintings at the same time, and like going between them, and it was like really chaotic and like really how would I say it, like creative in a way, where it's not, you're listening to yourself, you're listening to the mood that you have, and you're allowing yourself to just be more creative than always like, okay, sit down, do the work on this one thing that I set out yesterday, I think there needs to be a balance between the two. So, I mean, it's fun to be creative and just not only work on like a tight schedule all the time. Let's have a look here. I think this is the last part of the question too, Ben. Also, since it's non-destructive, do you plan out your materials via a list of what you would like to accomplish, or just plug and play around with things? Again, the same thing. I do have like a rough list of materials like on like notes on my desk at the moment, but I mean that list is probably changing. What I will do is I have my core list of materials. So if we look at the scene that I currently have now, there's wood, there's plaster, there's wattle, which is like a medieval way of like building walls, which is going to be crucial because they also make fences out of them. And there's like all the terrain textures that I definitely need. So like generic stuff, like basic stuff that's really gonna be necessary for the scene itself. Grass, dirt, mud. Like the core things are never gonna change when it comes to a scene like this. But then if we're talking about like the additional textures that I will create, I don't really make a list or anything like that to keep track of. I'll just look at the references that I have, and then one day I might want to work on some food, and then I'll make some potatoes, and I'll simulate potatoes to make a tileable potato texture. Oh, are those masters? I assume master materials, right? Let's have a look. So the wood kit is my master material for like everything that's wood in the scene, right? And then I have a separate master material for my tileables. So for example, for the plaster, that is like a material instance from a master material for tileable textures. So that means that one of the instances is plaster, but I could also make that into like a tileable cobblestone material, for example, by just replacing the texture inputs. So I don't have to like recreate the same thing over and over again, like the same master material over and over again. And I mean, how you spice that up, how you add additional layers on top of it, that's up to you. For my master material for my wooden kit, for example, I have a lot of controls for like the different kind of masks that I've set up. For example, if we look at the first mask, that is my dirt mask. I can control how contrasted the mask itself is, how powerful the mask is, like how much of the asset it takes up. I can control the color of the dirt. I can control the roughness of the dirt to make it look like it's just dry dirt or it's more muddy. And that's all stuff that I'm gonna be using on all the assets in my scene that use the wooden kit, just to layer that stuff on top of it, right? I mean, materials like master materials are super powerful, and once you got the setup going, you can just like keep expanding on it or like keep adjusting it on the fly. And this is also the thing, right? Say I brought this up in like a mentorship that I just had. Say in like a really, really extreme example, right? I'm not thinking about doing this and I'm not gonna do it. But say you wanna switch up your scene in terms of style. Say I wanna go from like realistic to stylized. The way that I currently planned it is with the trim sheet that I'm using it's covering so many assets at this point that if I were to sculpt it in a different way, I were to texture it in a different way, it's gonna replace like 80% of screen space at the moment. So I can really easily like switch up the scene from like different styles even if I wanted to. Yeah, Ben, no worries. No worries for answering the question. It's a good question. So I appreciate you asking it. And now you can go back to bed. Just have like a power nap on the sofa. That's a good question, man. It's a good question. Next question from Leon. What are your criteria when you decide whether a part of your scene you're working on is going to be a unique texture or is going to be solved through tiling or trims? So this is the first part of the question, right? Let's see. I'm going to break it up a little bit. So it's basically, how do you decide which is going to be unique texture or is going to be solved to trims? That is a good question. Most of it comes down to the amount of materials that I'm going to be using. So say you have an asset in my medieval scene, for example, which is built out of wood, metal. What are some of the other medieval building blocks? Like cut stones, ropes, leather. There's like a bunch of materials that are coming together in like one asset. The likeliness for it to be a unique asset are more probable, because it might require too much geometry to make all the materials work. You could probably get away with it, right? But if you have, for example, if you have like the bellows, which is like an example that I'm thinking of currently. I'll also bring up the PureF in a bit if it's loading up. Like the bellows that I'm thinking of for the blacksmith area are like a good example for that, because there's so much intricacy in that prop. There's like little nuts and bolts on it that it's just way better to do it with like a unique texture than to do it with a trim sheet. Let's see if I can find like a good example. Or if you have like a lot of unique details in it, right? That's also like a perfect example. So let's switch it up. Hold on. Let's make this, maximize this first. Let's switch it up to the PureF file. All right. So for example, if I'm looking at these bellows, right? That has like a lot of unique sculpted detail into it. So that's perfect for like a unique example. Let's have a look. Probably something like the anvil too. I'm thinking about like making that unique too, because there's just some uniqueness to it, where like the shape itself is quite unique. You can do like a lot of cool stuff where you have like damaged edges in the sculpt and all that stuff. Okay, hello. How are you doing? So I would say the criteria, if we wanna build like a list of the criteria that we're gonna be looking at, is how I would always start like, how important is it to your scene? So is it gonna be like the hero prop of your scene? That is like a really big one. And also like Samuel just brought up is like, how many are you going to be using in your scene? That's also a good criteria to look at, because if you're going to be, say for example, if we look at the anvils that you brought up, if we're going to be using like 10 anvils in like one space, then you kind of want to have like some way to build variation between them. And then if you're thinking about building 10 separate anvils in your scene, that's gonna take up too much time. So you might you might start thinking about adding like decals or maybe like reusable stuff that you can add onto the anvil to make it look different from all the other ones. Detail normals would be great for both. Yeah, sure. That could definitely work. It depends on how you would were to approach it, right? But yeah, that's sort of the criteria that I kind of use. Let's have a look here. I feel like I should cover most of my scene through these methods, and I find myself becoming somewhat enslaved to my trim sheet, not daring some designs that will require a unique one-to-one texture. Yeah, that is a very good point. Any advice on how to break free of this mode of thinking and how to decide whether someone gets a full pass or should be solved with the aforementioned reusable methods? Yeah, like I mentioned, like some stuff, like the hero assets, like the stunning piece in your scene that you really want to highlight, that is going to be like in the spotlight, you probably want to spend more time on to make it look like really unique. Let's have a look here. Detail normals would be great for both. Yeah, that's again like a very good point, right? I mean, you can do so many things when it comes to the material setup in Unreal Engine that you could build in, like Samuel brought up as well. You could have like a vertex paint on top of it that has like rust and like damage and all that stuff too. But it just depends on what you want to do, how far you want to push it. Because that's what I'm doing with my scene as well, right? I'm using a trim sheet as a base, but then I'm overlaying so many layers on top of it that you could technically see it as more of a unique prop, because it has so much detail and like so much variation into it. And I'm even thinking about like adding even more to it. So yeah, it's all about like how much you want to layer, how much technical stuff you want to do too. Because what you're always trying to do, if we're looking at the balance between a trim sheet or a unique prop, is a trim sheet is really modular, really reusable across your scene, but it's missing those unique details that really make props shine. So that's where you have to do a lot of work to add these additional layers on top of it to kind of push it more towards a unique scene, like a unique prop. So yeah, if it has like lots of, to just recap, right, to give you like a sort of a quote unquote concrete example, if it has like lots of unique normal detail in your asset, I would think about like making it unique. And how to break free from like the enslavement of your trim sheet is, I mean, it's a good question, but you're already realizing that you're making sacrifices on some of the designs because you wanna build it with a trim sheet. If you're making too much of them, you have to just take a step back and realize that, okay, like I'm making too many sacrifices and it's kind of hurting the art quality that I want to achieve in my scene, and then do it as a unique prop instead. Yeah, there's some good points brought up, Samuel. I appreciate it. Because yeah, you can go really deep into like material vertex painting and like layering it up with additional masks, and you could technically, if you really wanted to, you could do everything with like a trim sheet and tilables if you wanted to. Yeah, no worries, Leon. Thanks for the good question. What are you all thinking about this? Like, how would you, if you used stream sheets before, like how would you break away from like being, quote unquote, enslaved to your stream sheet? Or how do you find a balance between the two? Just thinking out loud about techniques I still have to try in my upcoming work. Yeah, man, there's so much stuff that you can explore, right? That's also what I'm doing with this scene. I've never really done a second UV channel with like layering the masks on top of each other, and actually I'm quite surprised with the results at the moment. And I think I know a couple of ways where I can push it even further if I wanted to. And then from that point on, I have like a benchmark prop, right? Like I'm working on this card for like the longest time. But once I have that and I have everything kind of set up, it's more about just unwrapping the other assets and just churning them through like Painter and all that stuff. I just think about how important it is to the scene. Yep. I think that's also like the main point, right? If you're gonna be spending like a ton of time on like a unique thing that is gonna be in the back of your scene and no one's gonna look at it anyway, that's a really good indication that you might be wasting time. Trim sheets always require more planning and thought for me. Yep, definitely. It's just because it's more of a technical challenge than an artistic challenge, right? Because like how big do you want like certain parts to be from your trim sheet? How many different trims do you need? I was talking to someone before, and I was thinking about all the stuff that I do subconsciously when it comes to trim sheets. I was trying to put it into words, and what I think I do is I look at the concept, or I look at the thing that I want to create. I'll pick the biggest piece from that concept and I'll put that on the left side of my trim sheet. And then I'll have the smallest piece from that concept, like say for the wood, right? The smallest piece of wood, and I'll put that on the right somewhere. I'll leave some space to the right to do like some additional stuff. But I basically want to see what the biggest piece is, what the smallest piece is, and then sort of guesstimate what I need to fill it up in between. So for example, for my scene, I knew that I had like really big beams and I had really small planks, or like the side of planks. So I kind of guesstimated that I would need like a really big chunks, and to get some amount of variation, I created 4 of them. And then I sort of followed that template for the other parts as well. So I have like 4 bigger chunks, 4 medium chunks, and then 4 smaller chunks. And then if I scale it up or down, there's gonna be some stretching, right? But if I scale the medium parts up enough, I can move them to like the bigger parts, because then you're stretching it too much, right? Oh my god, I hope that makes sense. Probably listening to it back, I'm just gonna be like, what the hell was I doing there? But it's basically, you're basically trying to find a balance between the amount of trims that you need to bridge the gap between the pieces that you want to create in your scene. I mean, I learned tons of sculpting, mostly in ZBrush, dual UV map workflows, and more while freelancing over the past 2 months. I'm a pig backup environment I started previously. Looking at it now, it's like, ugh, so many workflows to correct here. Yeah, that's a good thing though. It's a good thing that you're realizing that, and that you're getting to grips with all the workflows and like all the technical hassle that we all need to get used to. Photogenic seal. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, thanks. It might make sense, or you might be really good at understanding me by now. All right, let's have a look at the next question. Thanks for the question, Leon. As always, really good ones, man. The next one is from Jacob. Since the games industry is such a competitive field, a common theme that I hear is to apply everywhere to get that first job and some experience in a production environment. Where do you draw the line when applying? Would you recommend applying for a studio whose project you have no interest in, just to get the initial experience in resume B? Or would you move onto the next application that interests you a little bit more within a reasonable threshold, sorry. Be it indie, AA, or like AAA? That is a really good question, Jacob. What I always keep mentioning when we're talking about applications is I make a list. And I basically categorize them by, look, these are my dream companies. And then I build down the list. I'll make like a barrier, like, look, these are like the 5 dream companies I want to work for. Then I have like a bunch of companies that I would be interested to work for, but are not like dream companies. And then I would have like all the rest basically that might maybe look interesting, but I'm not really 100% sure of. And I would just go through them. I would just go through them one by one and don't really... Let's have a look. Where do you draw the line when applying, right? Let's dive into that one first. I don't really draw a line. Like, honestly, especially if you're looking for your first experience, there is this thing that happens where I've had this on my first experience. I applied for Frontier Developments, and I wanted to work there on Elite Dangerous. So I got the job, but then they told me, this was like during the interview, so I knew about this beforehand, that I would probably not going to be working on Elite, but I would be working on like a new project that they were building then. And this was Planet Coaster. But the interesting thing that happened is once I got into the industry and I started working there, I was actually happy that I landed the job for Planet Coaster instead of Elite Dangerous. Because it's it's interesting to see like the outward facing stuff. Like, I saw Elite and I played Elite, and it's just like, it's really nice, right? That's like the sort of thing that I wanted to work for. But then looking at it from like a developer side, it was a less attractive project to me personally. Hey, gotta go, peeps. Samuel, have a good one, man. Thanks for joining. So yeah, sometimes you have to assume that you don't know anything about like the projects that they're working on. So I would not really draw a line anywhere. Like, as long as it's in games, you're looking for that initial experience, right? You're looking for the first couple of projects to get under your name, to get working in like an industry environment where you're gonna learn so much more than you probably ever did in school. Even though the school that I went to was really great, if you're working in the industry, you're gonna be up to date with like all the latest stuff. You're gonna be hearing it straight from the source. There's still a difference there. So yeah, I wouldn't really draw a line with applying to stuff. I would probably, I did it kind of the inverse, where how would I say this? I started applying for companies that didn't really interest me in the beginning. My reasoning there was because I was new to like writing cover letters. I was like new to writing emails, as stupid as that sounds. And I wanted to kind of test the waters a little bit, but I didn't want to throw in like all my chips in the basket on my first experience with like a dream company. So I sort of got some experience there, got some really interesting feedback from some other people too that I talked to. And then I basically went back to the list, started with my dream companies, and started building downwards. And honestly, like I think I mentioned this before a couple of times, I think I went through like hundreds of applications. And then I got lucky with Frontier. That they were looking for someone, and that they were interested in my profile, and that we kind of in the initial calls we kind of hit it off a little bit. Like it was a really pleasant conversation. Like it didn't really feel like a normal business interaction. It was really nice to just talk to them. Hey Martin, how's it going? Exploitation and living conditions being equal or better than where you're currently living. Well, this is when we're talking about already being in the industry, right? It's definitely different if you're a student. No, Jacob, we just answered your question. Oh man, I literally just finished it. But don't worry, man. This is gonna be like a VOD on Twitch anyway, and it's gonna be uploaded to YouTube like tomorrow, right? That's timing, yeah. Well, those were my bottom line when I started out. Yeah, I gotta be honest. I didn't really have that bottom line even. I was just like, look, I'm trying to get into the industry. I'll do whatever it takes. But that's not to say that it's not good to have that bottom line, though. It's good to already keep that in mind. But I was so busy with just focusing on like getting in that I didn't really care. Like the only thing that I cared about was like that it was like a livable wage, right? I didn't really wanna just work through well, I didn't really want to get exploited by like a company that would pay me less than like the living conditions. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of the same thing, right? Just looking at the wage that they were offering and then like comparing it to like the cost of living in that region. So I guess we kind of had the same bottom line. Because yeah, it would it would suck to just move to a place. In my case, I was moving from Belgium to the UK, and then not being able to afford to stay there while working. It would have been like a worst case situation. Yeah, Jacob, now that you're here, thanks for the question, man. I'm sorry that I answered it while you were away. All right. So most of the people here know the drill, right? Feel free to answer any question. Ask any question, and I'll try to answer it. Not the other way around. Let's go through the chat. Let's have a look here. Oh, you know what? I need to check one more thing though. I need to look at the anonymous questionnaire, see if there's like any questions in there. Let's have a quick look. Nope, no anonymous questions. Good. Need to keep that in mind. Let's have a look. How many anvils in your scene? How many anvils in my scene? Probably one. I know that you're no longer here, Sam, but it's probably only gonna be one. Maybe two. Kind of depends. Like blacksmith were like a really unique thing back then, especially in like smaller villages. What I'm going for. Actually, what are your dream companies? Oh man, That is a good question. That is a good question. Thanks, Ebracht. Thanks for joining, man. I'm happy to have you with us. Dream companies. Look, the thing that I've always said was it was Bethesda, right? Like I'm such a huge fan of the Fallout franchise. But I don't know. I think they knocked off like the pink tinted glasses when they released Fallout 76. However, this comes with the caveat that people keep recommending it to me and that I need to play it again because apparently it's a really good game now. So I still need to do that. So take that as it is. There's just something about the worlds that they create. So much depth in so much intrigue in like the environmental storytelling. I think it would be really nice to just work on it. Other than that, I don't know. Yeah. I think that was the one dream company that I always looked up to and that I always was inspired by. Just the worlds that they create, so interesting. They did get acquired by Microsoft. Not sure how that will impact their future, but I don't think cash will be a big concern. Yeah, that's true. I'm curious what that means for their future, like you said. I think I read that they were working on a new engine for, I think it's an unannounced project because I think the stuff that they already announced is still going to be on the Creation engine. I think Starfield is still going to be on the Creation engine. I might be wrong here though. But I mean, I would love it if it's on a new engine. See what kind of tech that they're pushing out to really push it into like next gen. It would be interesting, man. God, I hope not. Well, it depends. I think they can definitely make it better than it was before. But I mean, this is going out of the assumption, right? Like, I don't know how the engine works. I don't know how... Because we only know, like, the consumer-facing side of it, where we see, like, the bugs coming out of it. But, I mean, looking at proprietary engines, they're always kind of tricky. I think I mentioned this before, like, sometimes I'm even surprised that games come out. Alright. Let's go through the questions again. Dream companies, we answered that one. Did Frontier help with relocation for that position, and was it a junior position? So, let's have a think. Frontier definitely did help me with some weird restrictions that I had because I started out as an intern. So it was the last year of my university course, and I did like an internship with them for like 6 months. And then after that, I transitioned into a junior role with them too. Oh, did they help with relocation? That is a good question. I'll have to think back. They were definitely super helpful with just like organizing stuff and like getting you signed up and like helping you out with like going to the proper authorities and all that stuff, right? But specifically when it comes to relocation, I'm not sure. I can't remember actually. I can't remember. I don't think they helped me with that. Take this with a grain of salt. It's been a bit ago. How long from the position offer to you relocating and starting did it take? It was like really quick. because I remember saying it to my parents and like, oh, I got like a job offer from like a studio in the UK, and they were like, oh, when are you leaving? I was like, oh, within a month or something. Like within 1 or 2 months. It was like super quick, and that's like trying to find an apartment, like getting signed up and all that stuff. So it was like super quick. Wait, we can actually trace this back, because I was one of the first people that got an internship. No, so I guess it would be roughly 3 months then. Yeah, I would guess 3 months. Let's say something like that. It definitely felt really quick, because you're like uprooting your life and you're going to like a different country, and it doesn't really sink in until the moment is there. So it's like I was going. We explored the city because my parents came with us for like a first trip. Oh no, it wasn't the first trip. We did a first trip with the two of us, and then I think my parents joined along for like the second trip or something. Oh my god, my memory is so shoddy. But it was really quick though. Cthulhu Magus. How much do environment artists have a say in the actual level design? So they do have a lot of say, but when we're talking about say, it's actually team conversations. You're trying to communicate with your level designers to get the best possible result. And it's the same way if we look at the inverse of it, where if the level designer comes up with an idea that influences the art but makes for a better playable space, that's also going to happen too. Because you have to see it as like really being tight-knit with like the level designer working on a location, for example. There's this constant back and forth of like, look, I'm trying to dress up this space, like, is this causing any issues for like the level design? And then you might have to rethink how you art it up depending on the level design. Or it might also go the other way, like, look, I'm trying to do this really interesting thing for this location where I want to make it stand out and draw the attention, but that means that I'll have to change the level design just a little bit just to make that work. So it's definitely like a give and take relationship. And that's also where it becomes like really important that you're actually a good team player, that you can talk to the people in your team, and that you're pitching interesting ideas, and that you're trying to achieve this common goal of making a balanced, well-designed location that looks good at the same time. So you definitely have a say in it. And it works the other way around as well for level designers. They do have a say in the environment art. Beyond Extend doesn't mind asking the real questions. Hell yeah. Yeah, you guys always come up with like really good questions. I appreciate it. How do you find the balance between making a prop or something else realistic and making it good for a game? That's a good question, Bikes. Are we talking about the texture sizes and like the poly budget and the more technical aspect and balancing that with the artistic side? Is that what we're talking about? Because I mean, that has so many aspects to it, right? Where in like more AAA games, you might have a bigger budget that allows you to do like crazier stuff, whereas in a game like Planet Coaster that I worked on, for example, where the budget is like really strict, and you have to do like a lot of stuff with the texture to like fake some of the geometry that you can't really add to it. Martin, when an LD and an LA disagree, we put them in the Thunderdome. 2 go in, 1 comes out. Yeah, I guess we're both still here, so I guess we won like a couple of rounds each. More like making it readable and making it look good for a game. I mean, again, there's so many aspects to it, right? If we're looking at the most important factors, making it readable also has something to do with like the silhouette of the shape, where if you have control over the silhouette of the asset, that's where you can make it look really interesting from afar, and you're not relying on like all the micro details up close. It's a really tricky and open-ended question, I would say. Well, like making it readable and making it look good for a game. Huh. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that one because it's so open. Can you maybe give an example? Say for the style of game or what kind of prop that you're talking about? Will be interesting. Yeah, and if anyone else has any questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat. Oh, like that. Okay. Most of the time, if you make something 100% accurate to real life, it wouldn't work that good for a game. Yeah, that is correct though. Especially even when thinking about a game context, right? Some of the intricacies of, like say you have like a first-person shooter game, and you have this really, what is a good example? What is an easy to understand example? There are definitely sacrifices that need to be made. For example, if you have like a fence that has like really unique looking, like it's a wooden fence, has like really unique looking different kind of planks, but you also want to use it as cover. That kind of fence is not going to be really good if you try to stay accurate to like the real life thing of it, because the holes in between are going to make it so that the bullets can actually go through them as well. So people will be less likely to use it as cover. So what we kind of do there in this example is we minimize the holes that are going to be in the fences as much as possible to give you the actual indication that is looking like cover. And the same thing can be for like a lot of stuff. If we're talking about foliage, for example, where you can hide in, usually those patches are like really predictable. So and they don't have like the nice gradient that you were to see in like really natural environments, for example, because that gradient causes people to get confused that where is like the distinction between, am I in stealth mode, right? If it's sort of like the stealth grassy kind of thing. And for that kind of stuff, you need to be able to make the clear distinction from like a distance that you're gonna know that at this spot I'm safe, and if I go a little bit out of it, I'm fully uncovered again. So you don't really have the space to make like a transition like you would normally would in like natural environments, if you want to be really clear when you're signaling to the player. So that was like an example for foliage. Then we had like an example for cover. And the same could apply for like a statue, for example. If you have a statue with a really nice looking, intricately sculpted base, it might be so that some of the elements that you sculpted so neatly might not work for the navigation of the player, where he gets stuck behind like a little corner or like a little outcrop of the base or something. So you kind of have to always keep that in mind as you're working within, for this example, like a first-person shooter, for example. And then there's like a bunch of games that have like different restrictions, right? Because right now I'm talking about like a first person game. But if we're, what could be like a different example? Say we're talking about like Elite Dangerous again, where you have like a space station which has like a whole and you kind of want to add like support beams or like supporting structures to it so that it looks like an actual engineered gate where people can fly through. But maybe that doesn't work for like some of the bigger ships. So then you have to make like a sacrifice between the art and like how it's going to be used. At the moment, I'm also trying to make things readable and not too noisy from far away. You first have to identify where the noise is coming from. Is this coming from your texture, or is this coming from the amount of shapes and like the geometry that you're adding to it? I would say from a lot of the examples, most of it will likely come from the texture. And that's where just cleaning up like a bit of the high intensity texture detail that you're getting out of it is sometimes it's good to have a little bit of balance, a little bit of contrast in those shapes, where you have, for example, a wooden plank that has like high intensity detail at one spot, where there's like more chips and like more damage on the wooden planks, and then other parts of that same plank could be more smooth than other parts. And you have to play around with a little bit of that contrast and see how you balance those things, because there's this general rule, like the 80 to 20% rule, where you wanna have like 80% rest areas and then 20% highly detailed zones. That's also like a really good way of thinking about it, and you can apply that to like multiple aspects of your asset. For example, you can do that on the silhouette, where you have like a fairly simple silhouette and then the top of it could be like a bit more intricate, so that it's not just like super noisy from a distance, but you have this like recognizable shape that has like details on top of it. For example, that could be a statue in this case. Or if we look at a spaceship, you could have like more details on the cockpit area, and then the hull itself could be a fairly simple shape, and then have like details on the engines again, to sort of give contrast between all those elements. Hey Lloyd, how's it going, man? How is it going? Oh man, we're getting the first results in from the team challenge. Oh, this is looking so good. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to properly show this off. I might, because we're still waiting for the other team to post their results, right? Oh man, it's so good. So I might feature them in like next stream that we do, and just pull it up and like go through them, and maybe even could give some feedback or like some ideas to like elaborate on it, what they're currently doing it. But I mean, the stuff that they're doing is so good. It's so good. I know that I'm kind of teasing it here, but I'll promise that in next AMA, we'll go over them and we'll discuss what they did and like how they achieved it, and do like a little bit of just discussing it. Could be interesting. Smash the first challenge out of the water. Yeah, this is crazy shit, man. This is good. That'd be super useful. Yeah, this is also something that I want to add, right? If we're talking about this anyway, I am currently thinking about doing either like a portfolio review stream or doing like a work in progress review stream where we, I don't know what frequency, I don't want to say anything just yet, but I'm thinking about ideas how I can um do something where we can go through work together and like discuss it and like create this like creative space where people can discuss ideas and also give feedback like on stream. I think that would be really cool. So that's something that I'm thinking about. That would be awesome. All right. Do we have any more questions from the chat? Feel free to dump anything in here. Like there's no question that's too dumb. Um let's have a look. Oh, Dr. Manhattan. Hey man. I was planning to do a mentorship in the summer to create a small controlled environment. Do you think I should pick my mentor also based on the fact of where he's working? And if I want to work there as well? So I can already kind of make that kind of impression. That is a good question. That is a good question. Because my first instinct would be no. But there is definitely some value there. It's because the thing is, you do a mentorship to learn and to like grow your skill set and to like push your portfolio. But it doesn't always mean that the person that you do the mentorship with is like inclined to get you a job or needs to get you a job or can get you a job, right? So it's kind of tricky. Like I'm 100% sure that, I mean, being a mentor myself, they will do everything in their power to get you into a job that you want to do. And if that aligns with the work that they do and like the company that they work for, that's only a plus. But I would first of all focus on their work, and if that work aligns with the stuff that you want to achieve, and then if they also work at a company that you want to be working for as well, that is just like an additional plus. But I wouldn't base any mentorship hunting based on that fact. That's how I look at it. Bikes 3D, that would be very useful. I would just have to get some finished stuff out there then. Yeah, I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people. Pushing some finished stuff out. Yeah, it's so interesting. There's so many possibilities that we can do with that sort of thing. Just have, I'm looking forward to just having like this creative feedback kind of space where people can come in and like share some ideas and feedback to help other people out. You can make a Patreon tier or PayPal service to get reviews and then stream them. Yeah, that's something that I'll definitely need to keep in mind too. Okay, thanks a lot, man. I agree. I was just wondering that as a plus as well. I was just not sure if that could be the case. Like if the mentor can actually help you make the connection or giving you some help to get a job. Yeah, for sure. It also depends on the kind of mentorship that you're doing, right? So I have this monthly mentorship where I'm not really focused on purely helping you with your personal work, but it could also be something where you're unsure about like how you want to get the word out from your work, like how to manage social media, how to get your first job, how to write a good CV, all that stuff. I think is also important for people to get understanding and get to grips with. So I would definitely propose that to like the mentor, and like help, like ask them if they can help them with some of the stuff like the CVs, the portfolio creation that can help you get a job. Because yeah, it's sort of like, I think we mentioned that in last stream, where it's sort of like networking. If you think about networking for networking's sake, it's not going to work. You kind of have to treat networking as just making friends. And that's also what you're doing here. You're setting up this connection with like a teacher, like a mentor, and you're just taking everything in, and you're trying to do your best to understand everything and get to a place where you yourself have put in all the work to create like a really good portfolio piece or like a portfolio. And that will in turn mean that they are just like super proud of you, and that they can be proud of the work that you put in. And then you build up a connection through that, because you worked, even though you did like 95% of the work, right? They were still there to like help you and like guide you and create this thing together. Do you ever have the feeling after finishing a project that you really want to work on something, but you... Oh, but you CV. You can't figure out to decide what your next project is going to be, and you fall in a hole where you just try and find inspiration, but you just can't find something that you want to work on? If yes, how do you deal with it? No, I never have that. I never have a lack of ideas. Like, I'm always... The issue that I have is that I need to stop myself from not working on the next thing. However, what I would always say is look at the stuff that you're really interested in. For me, that's already is going to be doing something with foliage, because I kind of like foliage. I like organic things, and especially when it's in contrast with like the man-made stuff. So that already sets like a base template of the next thing that I'm going to do. So I already know that I'm going to go back to like my sci-fi scene, for example. But even in that sci-fi scene, it's based around foliage. So it's going to be this station where an AI is going to take care of plants, and is basically an automated line with hydroponics, where an AI is going to take care of plants from like start to finish. So I always have this base template where it's like something with organic, something foliage, and then I just tack something on it. Where usually that thing I tack on it, for example, in the medieval scene started because I started from a concept that I really liked, and then it kind of morphed into this challenge where I wanted to do something with trim sheets, because I never really had that much experience with trim sheets before. I knew how they worked, but I've never really had experience where I built this like second UV channel and all that stuff. Yeah, make a house and turn it into a city. Exactly. Totally not a recommendation, by the way. But yeah, usually the thing that I tack onto my project is something that can really push my understanding of like a certain workflow. For example, with the sci-fi scene again, it's still foliage, and like organicness is like the thing that is sort of the anchor of the project. But then the thing I tacked onto it was the mid-poly workflow that they do in Star Citizen. I don't have any experience with that, but I was really interested in how it would work. And that's how... Yeah, I guess it's kind of finding your anchor. Like, what is the thing that you really love to do? What is the thing that you really like to do and like to work on? And use that as an anchor, and then just stack stuff on top of that anchor. Dr. Manhattan. So I saw your monthly one, but I was wondering if you could do something that could last more than a month or tailored around my goals. No, don't worry about it. It's good that you asked straight here. It's something that I have in mind for a long time, but it's currently just finding the time to do it is the really tricky part. I find that doing these like monthly like catch-up meetings almost, I wouldn't even call them mentorships. They're like lightweight, right? Like both for the other party and for me as well. And that's also making them more versatile and I can play around with like the timing of them. Whereas if I were to do like a full mentorship, I want to have it supported with a lot of stuff that I'm working on in the background at the moment, which I'm not gonna reveal. But I'm basically working on a lot of the foundational pieces that I personally want to have already set up, so that it's not just the person coming into a mentorship and then only listening to me. I want to be able to offer them like, look, this is a list that I want you to look at for this. This is a list that I want you to look at for this. Maybe if you're interested in this, you can look at this. I wanna have a lot of supporting structure around it instead of only like me as a mentor. But didn't find much info online. Yeah, that's true. If I can make something good out of a mentorship, then they might remember me when I apply for the internship. Oh, 100%. Like this is a thing when you do a mentorship and when you make like a killer piece and that gets shared by people inside of the industry, right? Or by your mentor. It's not only going to be conducive for that mentor, but we've actually hired one of our juniors because I don't know who found it out, and one of the artists was like, hey, look, this is like a really interesting scene from a person that's looking to get into the industry, and that was through a mentorship with Chris Ratsby. And then we contacted Chris Ratsby to get like a bit more information about that person. And then we reached out to that person. And now he's working for us. So this is basically how you kind of need to look at the industry. Like you always hear this stereotypical thing of like the industry is like a small thing. But that's what we mean with like the industry is a small thing. Like most, especially if we're focusing on the art side, a lot of artists like have moved around, gone to different places. So say I'm looking at portfolios for like juniors, for example, potential juniors, and I know, yeah, exactly Stan van Gaal. That's exactly the person whom I'm talking about. Yeah, he's working in my team now, so I mean, that's how stuff turns out. But that's what we talk about when we say like the industry is small. Like if we're interested in maybe getting a member on our team, then we reach out to the person that has some sort of contact to get like a second opinion of them. So yeah, man, I definitely recommend like going for these mentorships or like sharing your work online. It doesn't always have to be through a mentorship, right? It can also be just like a random person that we discover online. That happens a lot too. Stan rocks. I'm working with him too. Hell yeah, man! He's doing really good. Makes total sense. Any good mentorships that you can suggest other than yours? I know that Christopher Ratsby has just moved off from the mentorship coalition, but he started his own mentorships. And take this with a grain of salt. I've never done like a mentorship before. I was never on the opposite side of the spectrum, right? But he's the mentor from Stan, so he's like the stuff that's coming out of the people that he mentored is looking really good. So I can definitely recommend him from the stuff that I've seen, right? Not from personal experience. Let's have a look. I don't know. I don't think he's... I would just reach out to him. Let me link that. This is his profile. I think he's just doing it under his own name. So I would reach out to him. I was basically looking at the post that he did lastly, and it just mentions that you should reach out to him personally if you're interested in mentorships. I can recommend Tim's. Thanks, man. Yeah, I would really love to get back to like, or at least do one, maybe two full mentorships. Because that's something that I see with the mentorships that are like monthly basis, is that sometimes it's good to have like a weekly plan and just say like, okay, look, next week I want you to do this, or like by next week I want you to do this. So yeah, definitely like a good learning experience. But I mean, available in the summer, it's hard for me to tell. I was just about to speak on that too. I don't want to make any promises. I'm keeping you in mind though. Like I'm gonna write this down. I'll make a note of it after the stream, and then if I do, I'll notify you. But no promises though. So don't hold out, right? Look for other mentorships. There's a ton of people doing it these days. So it's definitely like Hyrie. You definitely can find someone. But I'll keep everyone in the loop if it happens. Those are some good questions. Jacob, oh god, I have too many things I want to do. Pinterest albums with hundreds of concepts. No, I think the quickest way for reaching out to me is probably Discord. So if you want to reach out to me, just feel free to add me on Discord. Because, I mean, I check ArtStation from time to time, probably daily, but then actually replying to messages, I mean, I'm so bad at it. 100%. Not gonna even lie about that one. No worries. No worries at all. Alright, people. This was a really good session. I appreciate like all the questions, all the insight, and like all the posts that you all make. It's always awesome to have this little chat on like a Sunday. Makes me feel good. But I'll have to go. So for everyone that's new to this, feel free to check out the Patreon or like the Discord server. Check out beyondextent.com, and yeah, I'll see you around in the next sessions. All right, I'll talk to you all later. See ya.